this case will begin and that delivery can be anticipated on such date. Monies received before completing the transcript should be kept in a separate account or trust account set up for the purpose of helping to produce a transcript. Okay? Pretty self-explanatory. In the case of an indigent person who cannot afford to pay the court reporter, most states allow for the payment under a pauper's oath by which a reporter is paid at the statute rate by the county or the jurisdiction. In other states, these transcripts are produced by the official reporter pro bono for work or free of charge. Happens, guys. It happens. Trust me. And especially down there at the court, you know. But these guys have to prove that they are completely indigent. They have no money whatsoever. You know, and attorneys are pretty good about being creative. So it's like, you know what? You can't flip a burger somewhere? Everyone can. Well, I can't. You know, I'm wheelchair bound. I can't. I'm completely, you know, disabled. And it's a 1,000-page transcript on 4 days, and you do it for free. It's happened. It's happened. But, I mean, these guys, and they can file a pauper's affidavit, and that's what it is, that they're poor. They can't afford to pay for it. But they have to serve you, and you have so many days to answer. You know what? I'll call an attorney friend of mine, hey man, I just got served with a pauper's affidavit, don't worry about it, Dave. He said, we'll fight it. Okay. And I had to fight it once. Some of the, I mean, you talk to some of the reporters, and I'm going to have some reporters come and, you know, speak on different days or whatever, and you can ask them about pauper's affidavit. Write that down. Write that down on questions to ask on, you know, different days that, you know, and ask them about stuff like that. It's happened. I think every reporter down there has probably gotten at least one, at least, if they've been down there long enough. So it happens.
So when you say you fought it, you spoke with an attorney and
And we filed some stuff, and then we had to have a hearing in front of a judge, and then they determined whether he really is indigent or not.
Is it the same judge that hears it?
It could be, but like the presiding system that we have here, it could go to any judge. You know, you don't know which judge it's going to go to, so, you know, it can go to any judge.
so it's you versus this person claiming
Yeah.
that you fought.
So
Yeah.
pro bono tax deduction then for you? Or-
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least. So at the very least, I mean, you get something, but, you know, you just claim it as a loss. $6,000, $6,000 loss. Happens, you know, but, you know, it is what it is. I mean, sometimes they're small, you know, they're 200 pages or 50 pages, but when you have to do it for free, it stings a little bit. It does sting, but it happens. I mean, you know, but luckily, I mean, we fought, and the guy, you know, they have to, you know, be completely. You don't own any land. You don't own a car. You can't get a credit card, a loan, something, anything. You own absolutely nothing. No. A wheelchair that I'm in, pretty much, and then I get $400 from the state to live on, plus, you know, food stamps or blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he's indigent. Give him the record. So, I mean, once you've been ordered by a court, you don't have a choice then. You know, you have to do it. So, it happens. Estimating the cost of a transcript. The following are easy rules for estimating the cost of a transcript. Take the first 100 pages of 4 or 5 completed transcripts. Find the accompanying notes that correspond to the first 100 pages and measure their depth in inches using a ruler. Average the 4 or 5 notes you measured to arrive at one figure. Guys, I have no idea what they're talking about back in the day when we used to write on paper notes. Ain't happening now. You read it into that computer, boom, shoots it, it tells you exactly how many pages it is. You don't have to estimate, was it this, this, this? No, it was 120 pages, I just read it in, you know? So,
Here at this part, was really, really old.
Yeah.
Old school.
Yeah.
Like-
But I didn't want you guys to get confused on, well, what are we supposed to measure? How thick the check's gonna be when they write that check? I don't know. And really, a lot of that is going back to old stuff, so they're going back to, well, how many kilobytes it was, if they're saying, for a reporter who used a memory device on an electric writer, the number of kilobytes used for a standard job helps in estimating the size of the transcript. For example, if a reporter uses his job is 100 pages long and he used 1,600 kilobytes, guys, seriously? Read the job in, tell them exactly how many pages it is. Regardless of how many kilobytes I used in the morning, doesn't make any difference. If we had 8 jobs that morning, we had 8 different cases that we heard that morning, it's no big deal. Guy calls, hey man, I need that hearing that we took this morning. Okay, well, I knew it took most of the morning, but we had 6 other cases that we heard. They were pretty short, but I'm not gonna, it was 1,600 kilobytes, and I can usually get 100 pages per 1,600 kilobytes, so I'm gonna go with 100 pages. No. Read it in and tell them exactly how many pages it is. You add the 4 pages, for the title page, appearance page, witness page, certificate page. You add that in. So if it's 64 pages, add the 4 pages, now it's 68 pages. No big deal. You don't have to estimate. You pretty much know what it is. 68 pages. Oh, okay. Could be 68, could be 88. I don't know. Send me the money for 88 though. No. Read it in. That's it. Okay? Final word about transcripts. Follow the proper procedure for the court or agency within your jurisdiction regarding reading and signing of depositions and the delivery of the original transcript to the clerk of the court. When in doubt, ask another reporter from your firm or an official reporter who has had experience. Never leave to chance matters that deal with the life or liberty of individuals. So always just make sure, guys. Just ask questions. Don't be scared to ask questions. Ask. Okay, it's better to know than not know and mess it up. Okay? How a trial transcript looks. That's pretty much it. This one says state of New York, and each state's going to be different, So, if you go work in another state, just because you learned it here and you saw trial transcripts from Texas, doesn't mean that that's necessarily going to be the way it's set up. And because you take the Eclipse class that I teach and I give you the block files, doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to be set up. So if you decide, my husband's getting transferred and we're going to Colorado. Well, you know what? Colorado doesn't do it this way. Well, these are the block files that I have. So what? Colorado doesn't do it this way. You have to find out what the uniform format rule is for Colorado and then follow that uniform format rule, okay? So if you stay here, the firm that you go to work for may tweak it a little bit. You know what? Well, you have that one from Dave, but that's not the way we do it anymore. On that certain thing, we put this kind of language, okay, whatever. Well, you have to change it because, the firm is different. He didn't work for a firm, he works for the court down there, and that's what's different, and we need to tweak this and tweak that, okay? No big deal. So the appearance page, kind of the same thing. For the plaintiff, Amadon, for the defendant, blah, 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 Barney and Erickson, and who it was. Index page. This is stuff that we've already kind of gone through. We've already kind of covered this stuff, so I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time on it. But that's kind of the way, it looks. Plaintiff's witnesses, defendant's witnesses, plaintiff's witness and a rebuttal, defendant. I'll be honest with you guys, I don't do it that way. I just have a witness setup list and I put my witnesses and that's it. Okay? So I don't put state's witnesses, defendant's witnesses, ad litem's witnesses. I just put witnesses in the order that they went in. Now, your firm may do it different. You know what? We're doing it the way that they put it up. You're gonna do the state witnesses, ad litem's witnesses, respondent's witnesses, go on from there. Whatever. On the exhibits, I do those different. So I have state's exhibits, blah, 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 respondent's exhibits, blah, 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 ad litem, whatever. So you have two respondents. If you ever come sit in my court, you have two respondents. Now they may be together, mom and dad are together and they're fighting it together, so it's one exhibit or whatever. But maybe they're not. Maybe they're not together. And now they're fighting for custody. They've both done the plan. They both are entitled to the kid, and now we're trying to see who's going to get the kid, whether it's mom or dad. Well, dad wants a kid. Mom was the one who had the kid, and kid was born drug positive. Dad didn't have anything to do with it. So he wants the kid. So now they're fighting for it. So now they're, admitting different exhibits. Well, now you have respondent dad exhibits, respondent mom exhibits. Okay? And, here they're kind of showing just kind of block files, colloquy block files and stuff like that. So the block files are the little things that are in parentheses, okay? And it's, witness was sworn, a jury was duly impaneled and sworn, stuff like that. If that's the way you want to do it, that's the way your firm wants you to do it, that's the way your court wants you to do it, then you do it, okay? Examination, same way. Direct, in the center, byline, question. And see how it comes over? You see how on 1, 2, 3, 4, on line 9, where it's question, blah, 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 then it comes all the way over? That's what it's supposed to do. Because it's indented, doesn't mean that it stays indented. Okay? And that's what the rules were telling you in the book just a little while ago about coming back. So because it's in colloquy and it's indented 15 spaces, doesn't mean that it goes to the end and then comes back right there at the 15 space, comes back to the 15 space. No, it goes all the way to the end and then just keeps going from there. Okay? So that's what they were talking about. I don't do this either. When they call a witness, and then they do it in caps, Teresa Fields, MD, was called, as a witness on behalf of the plaintiff, being duly sworn, testified as follows. I don't do that. Okay? It just says, bless you. We're going to call Teresa Fields, MD. Okay, come on up. I don't put anything in there that's, Teresa Fields was called, and some people kind of see that as padding. We know it's Teresa Fields. We know she was sworn in. We know she was called as a witness. You didn't need to tell us that in 3 lines, So I don't do it. And at the end, you kind of have a little parenthetical if you want to. Court was adjourned at 4 o'clock for the day. Or proceedings were adjourned for the day, if you want. I wouldn't, if it had on line 25, thank you, Your Honor, we'll see you tomorrow. And then you go on to page 46 and put proceedings were adjourned for the day. Probably wouldn't. you just charge that attorney or whoever an extra $6 for one page that has that the thing was adjourned for the day? Probably not. Probably not a good idea. But if they said, you know what, thank you, Your Honor, see you tomorrow, and it's all on one line on page 46, then it is what it is. You know, you can't squeeze it up in there. It is what it is. That's what they said. That's what they said. They didn't say the court adjourned for the day. You just put that in there. But if they said, you know what, thank you, Your Honor, we'll see you tomorrow. Okay. And okay was on, you know, line 1 of page 46, then it is what it is. The transcript is a transcript. Then you might add the parenthetical just to make it look better. The court adjourned for the day, and now you use 2 lines instead of just 1. But you see what, y'all understand what I'm talking about? Don't pad that page just by putting that adjourned for the day on one page by itself. Probably not a good idea. Any questions about that? Pretty simple stuff we've gone over already.
It was good just to see it on the full page instead of little mini pictures.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, you can see it in the transcript. You know, if you guys ever want to check one of these out, come in early or whatever, you can always, you know, come in and look at those and kind of get a reference.
So David, on that, here, we'll go back on that line, you know, that line 16?
What page?
Page 148. Like I
Alright.
said, if it was to be on that one page by itself, you would not charge them for that page then?
No, I wouldn't put it.
You would.
I wouldn't put that parenthetical that it was adjourned for the day if it's just a one line.
Okay.
Now, if they said on line 15, thank you, Your Honor, and that's on line 1, page 46,
Right.
because you're on page 45 right there.
Right.
It's on line 1, page 46,
Then yes,
and it is what it is.
right.
They said that. You don't leave it out because, oh, you know what, I don't want to charge that guy an extra page, so I'm just going to leave that out. No, they said that. It's part of the record.
Right, but if it ends with line 15 on page 45, is this 45? Wait, I'm lost. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. 45, then you leave it like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if it ends on 15, you leave it on 15. Then, you know, if you want to put your little parenthetical in that it was adjourned for the day, it doesn't hurt it. They've already, the page is the page.
Right.
Okay? The point that I'm trying to make is, don't put an extra page in there because you want to put, court was adjourned for the day. They don't really care that it was paid for the day, adjourned for the day. When they have to pay $6 for you to put a little parenthetical, and that's the only thing on that page.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Okay? Any questions about that? No? The working environment of the freelance reporter. Objectives. Define what freelance reporting is as it relates to courtroom reporting. Explain the employer-employee relationship as it relates to work as an independent contractor and full-time status. List and explain some benefits that an employer may offer an employee. Define what is meant by reporter-agency fee split, and give some examples and explain different types of freelance agency scenarios. Okay? Freelance agencies. Y'all know what that is, right? Okay. A freelance reporting agency is a company that hires an individual reporter to do assigned work for the firm. Basically, people who need the services of a court reporter contact the agency then contacts a reporter, and the reporters do the job. The people who contacted the agency pay the firm, and the firm pays the reporter, taking the percentage of money as a fee for finding the job, and in some cases, offering their facilities and equipment. Freelance agencies are large and small. Some agencies employ hundreds of reporters, others are small, as in 1 or 2 employees. In addition, freelance agencies offer a variety of fringe benefits and employment incentives. Employment status. A reporter working with an agency needs to know whether or she is considered an employee for an independent or an independent contractor. Employees who are hired directly by the freelance agency enter an employer-employee relationship. In this case, the employer is required to deduct all federal, state, and local taxes pertaining to income tax and Social Security. Okay? Now, guys, I'll be honest with you. I have no idea what it is now. I've been out of that game for so long. I've been 20 years that I haven't been in that game. So I have no idea. So when I was doing it, I was an independent contractor. So they didn't pay my taxes. So when you get that check, you did that job and it was 1,000 pages and, you charged $6. It was $6,000. Well, he or she takes their 30%, whatever. Well, they've just taken $180. If it's 30%, is that right? $1,800. $1,800. $1,800. We're finding you the job. They bound the job. They delivered the job. So they made that money. So now you're down to $4,200. Okay, well, that's good. You got that check, $4,200. Man, I'm gonna go buy a TV, clothes, blah, blah, blah. Well, you never took your taxes out. And taxes, what it was back then, was like 35%. So now you gotta take out 30 to 35% for your taxes. So now you're taking out, what's 42, 36, 1,260 bucks. Another $1,260 for taxes. So now instead of 4,200, now you're down to, what is that, 2,600, right at about 3,000 for a job that was 6,000 bucks. Still good money, still really good money, but you have to pay taxes. So you get that check, just for argument's sake. Every reporter's done it, I know they have. I was one of them. You get that check and it was $4,000. You know what? I'll worry about the next job and I'll take it out of the next job. This 4,000 bucks, we're going to Vegas and whatever. Okay. Well, if you're disciplined enough to take it out of the next check, then you're okay. Or you know what? I'm putting money aside and I'm putting a little bit of money aside and, I have enough. Then it comes to the end of the year, you've got to pay